Flux here, and we are going to be discussing the environmental racism, environmental injustice, how racism is systemic and structural, pertaining to access to clean, suitable, healthy, affordable drinking water. Water that you can use to drink, to bathe, to cook, to clean. And when it pertains to black and brown people throughout the United States of America, but really this is a global issue because millions of people across the globe currently do not have access to clean, suitable drinking water. But I'm going to target the focus on what's going on here in the USA. So, those of you who don't know, I am from Flint, Michigan, born and raised. And Flint, Michigan, we've been dealing with an ongoing water crisis for 8.5 years. April of 2014, it was a decision by the then Governor Rick Snyder, who is a Republican governor, at the time in 2014 in April, made the decision to switch Flint, Michigan drinking water to the Flint River, despite the fact that the Flint River has pretty much always been seen as a contaminated body of water that was unsafe for people to be using as a source of drinking water, bathing water, cooking water. Quite frankly, I don't think people should be eating the fish that comes out of the Flint River personally. But you know what? We're going to continue. What's going on, Nicholas Wallace? What's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Love Michigan. Thank you. And that happened in April of 2014. So here we are 8.5 years later, basically still dealing with an ongoing water crisis. To this day, there was a water boiling advisory not even a few weeks ago, maybe like a week and a half ago. And then I live on the outskirts of the city now. And we had a boiling water advisory last week in my area that's on the outskirts of the major city of Flint. So it's just something to think about where I'm like, this is an ongoing issue. They supposedly were supposed to be replacing all of the... sorry about that. Hopefully it'll stop breaking up. Sorry about that. On my side, it's still very clear, so I don't know. Hopefully it'll stop breaking up. But for here in Michigan, they were supposed to be replacing all of the lead lines, which, let's be honest, they never replaced all of the lead lines. Not to mention that in the city of Flint, the water infrastructure for the sewer and everything is a century old. It's well over 100 years old. And a lot of the actual pipelines were literally wood. They were wood, they were lead, galvanized pipes, very outdated and ancient, and they did not replace every single line. And then keep in mind, the lines that got replaced were only from the city side, right? So like the pipelines that were coming into your house from the street, from the sidewalk, the city property. That was the only piece of pipes that they replaced. They didn't replace the pipes that were inside of your actual home. Not to mention that a lot of people's water heaters were completely corroded and damaged. All kinds of things were damaged because you had lead just destroying all of that. They never replaced any of that. There's a lot of people who still have the same janky water heaters from April 2014 that's still in their homes, that's still contaminated. Not a good setup. And people are still living off of bottled water, which is a whole nother issue for the environment because all we're doing is putting a bunch of plastic back into Earth. That plastic is not biodegradable, so it's just going to sit there and pollute the environment and cause a lot of other issues. But at the same time, you can't trust the water that's coming from your sink. I mean, I wouldn't drink that. But just to give you a background, I want to highlight like I said, what's going on in different parts of the country. And then keep in mind, this is a global issue, okay? Because throughout the world, there's millions of people who still don't have access to clean, suitable drinking water, okay? Now, to highlight what's going on in Jackson and then try to tie it back in to what's going on in different parts of the world as well as different parts of the USA, that's what we're going to try to do. Nicholas, hopefully is it going well now? Is it still breaking up? Because you were saying that every 2 seconds it was. Hey, easier said with Meg. What's going on? How are you? What's going on, Natalie? What's going on? Thank you all for tuning in. Are you all able to hear me clearly? Is it breaking up for you when you watch? Is it like every 2 seconds kind of blotchy? What's going on, Natalie? What's up? What's up? Okay, but now to get back to it, we're going to talk about, this is off of thehill.com, or actually, this is off of NPR. I'm going to read this one first. The crisis in Jackson and how climate change is threatening water supplies. Now, the crisis that has hit Jackson, Mississippi highlights the fragility. Thank you, Nicholas, for letting me know. It's going fine now. Thank you. Thank you all for letting me know. Thank you. Highlights the fragility of water systems across the country that will be increasingly vulnerable to the effects of climate change in the coming years. As rainfall of historic proportions flooded the Mississippi's Pearl River, a key pump at the O.B. Curtis Water Treatment Plant, which provides the capital city with its drinking water, was unable to keep up, causing a severe drop in water pressure. Some 150,000, 150,000 residents were left without drinking water. Although water pressure has been restored, a boil water notice remains in effect. Like I stated earlier in this live, we had a boiling water advisory in my area, and I'm on the outskirts of the main city last week. And then before that, the city of Flint literally had a boiling advisory a couple of weeks ago, if that. And then we also had another environmental hazard take place, contaminating the Flint River water all over again this summer back in June. So it's always just a disaster going on. And if you notice, it's always in predominantly black and brown, people of color, lower income, working class, working poor areas where these issues seem to constantly happen. Okay, so the situation in Jackson is a cautionary tale, but the reality is that in 2022, communities across the USA have experienced severe flooding as well as drought, as what we're seeing on the West Coast and places like California, where literally they're telling people to keep their air condition at 78 degrees and don't go any lower because they're going to basically destroy the power grid, despite the fact that there's literally a heat wave. I mean, it's 100+ degrees for multiple days at a time. So you can see why people want their air condition on if they have the privilege and access to even have air condition. But you can also see how that's going to be damaging for the power grid. Hey, what's going on, Love JJ 1814? Thank you for tuning in. None of this is a coincidence. Exactly, Natalie. Always in the black community. Remember Katrina, Hurricane Katrina. Again, the 17-year anniversary of that literally just passed. It was 17 years ago, y'all. The end of August, basically 2005. Hurricane Katrina. Yup. So they're trying to, they're putting the blame on climate change, which, let's be honest, climate change has been horrifying, has been horrible. I mean, we're seeing, like I said, the droughts, the dry weather, we're seeing flooding in some areas. Flu season used to be something that you had to worry about, in October, and it would last for maybe 3 to 6 months. Now, flu season is really starting in August now at this point. And it's well over 6 months of basically being a flu season. And then because of COVID is year round. So it's like you're basically in COVID season for 12 months. There is no break off with that. And then you've got flu season becoming longer and longer and longer. Hurricanes, tornadoes, you're seeing earthquakes, you're seeing tsunamis. Let's talk about what's going on in Pakistan, where literally a third of the country has been completely flooded. All right, like people have died, and no one really seems to talk about what's going on in Pakistan, which I will also have information on that in the description box below once this video is edited. Nicholas, it's dry as F here. We need rain. Yes, droughts. You have the droughts, and then with the droughts come the wildfires and other potential hazards. And like right now, the power grid, which the power grid in California is at risk, and the power grid in Texas has been at risk for quite some time. I remember in 2019 in Michigan, in February of 2019, we were told to keep our heat at 65 or lower because it was so cold. It was brutally cold that winter, and they told everybody to keep our heat at 65 or lower to maintain the power grid in Michigan. And that was in February of 2019. So 3.5 years ago, we had that issue. You see, and it's like people seem to not think that climate change is real. A lot of people want to say that it's a hoax, even though it's right in your face. You're having all of this catastrophic weather and conditions that we normally don't have. And people just seem to think, oh, well, you know, it's a fluke. Well, how is it constantly happening over and over and over again across the country and across the world for decades? This is year after year after year. Obviously, this is not a hoax or a fluke. This is real, you know, and it's time for people to really take this serious. I live in Houston. I remember Katrina. Everyone came here. Yup. People fled if they were able to get away in time. And a lot of people permanently relocated. I know my cousin was able to get to Texas and then ended up staying in Michigan with us for a minute before going back. And now she's in Michigan permanently, basically now, because it was just always a hurricane. It was just always something bad happening in that area. And mind you, that was 17 years ago. So like I said, climate change has been a problem for decades. It's nothing new, unfortunately. It's just that a lot of people were under the impression that it was a hoax and fake, you know, and everything's fake news, even though it's right in your face. All the schools doubled in enrollment, and all my friends had fam from Louisiana staying with them. Yup. Natalie, I believe in climate change, but I also wouldn't doubt weather manipulation by man. True, because we got to be honest. Climate change, for the most part, is happening because of humans. It is what it is. Humans are destroying the world. I mean, you know, greed, capitalism, all these corporations, you know, overconsumption, literally pumping the planet for all of the natural resources, no respect to Earth, to animals, to other humans, to the planet, nothing. Everything's about that money. And they're willing to destroy the planet for them to make money. They've made that very clear to us, unfortunately. Nicholas, it's 84 degrees and it's 7:30 p.m. Yeah, and see, it's wild because right now where I'm at, it is 63 degrees outside. But I'm in Michigan. You know, Michigan is in the Midwest. We typically don't have... Our fall and our winters are brutal, point blank, period. And then our falls, it be getting cold quite quickly. I mean, it could be snowing on Halloween in Michigan very easily. But this summer we had a lot of hot days. I mean, but for me, I enjoy warm weather over cold weather any day, because in Michigan, I swear winter is like 6 months. So we look forward, many of us here look forward to that warmth weather, but that's just it. It shouldn't be to the extreme. Like you said, 84 degrees and it's 7:30 at night. You know what I mean? That's just ridiculous. And it shouldn't be like that. And then Love JJ, China is making their own sun. It's a common knowledge that China and the US have scientific tools to manipulate the weather. Yup. Yo, Michigan winters is crazy cold. Yes, it can be 30 below zero here for weeks at a time. And then the out cold part is it'll be 30 below zero and won't even be snowing. Like, it's just freezing for no reason because we're not even getting snow half the time. So it is something to experience, to say the least. You'll be sitting back like, what in the world? But you never really know. It's wild. The potential destruction of humankind will be done by humankind, those governing and leadership roles in particular. Yup, same in Ohio. I know, I used to live in Ohio. Okay, in the Midwest, you get it. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. It's 86 degrees right now in Houston. Yeah, it's 63 here. So I'm just like, and I still got my little fan on because it gets hot in the house. And it'd be taking the house a little longer to cool down. So to continue reading this, so then we go into how a lot of cities, unfortunately, have already been forced to adopt new methods of getting water. So, for example, when Central and South Florida experienced a major 100-year drought in 2000 and in 2001, people living in those areas experienced a critical shortage in their water supply. Okay, so what ended up happening, they decided that the reliance on groundwater and surface water was not going to be enough. What emerged from the discussion was a bold option that was largely untried in the U.S. Officials decided to go for desalination using a process known as reverse osmosis, which is something that a lot of people have started doing in Flint and throughout different areas in the country. If you don't have access to clean drinking water, is using reverse osmosis systems that would pump seawater out of Tampa Bay and send it through high pressure pumps and force it through extremely fine filters, removing the salt in order to make it drinkable. So in Flint, some people have reverse osmosis systems hooked up to their homes to filter out all of the lead and PFAS and other contaminants that are in the water. I know, for example, my grandparents, they have a reverse osmosis system on their home. And then even to this day, everybody's drinking bottled water, using filters, whether it's the reverse osmosis or the filters that come directly on your kitchen sink. And then people have those Culligan water case things that are delivered to their homes. Like, people basically don't trust the drinking water at all coming from the faucet. And a lot of it is PTSD, and then it's also just the fact that it's still not safe to drink. And not to mention that Flint, Michigan is still paying some of the nation's highest water bills for unsafe drinking water to this day. 8.5 years later, it's ridiculous. And then let's also not forget what took place in Iowa, right? For Iowa City, 2 major flooding events within 15 years, one in 1993 and another in 2008, both exceeding the 100-year flood mark, were a watershed in thinking about the city's infrastructure. So the same event swamped a water treatment plant farther west in Des Moines, leaving 250,000 people without drinking water, in an echo of what happened in Jackson. The National Guard had to be called in to deliver bottled water to residents, which also happened in Flint. Back in 2014, 2015, we had the National Guard coming into the city of Flint to deliver cases of water because we couldn't drink the water. And to this day, people are still going to water sites to pick up cases of water for free 8.5 years later because the water is still unsafe to drink. People are still getting sick. People are still dying. People are having all of these, especially in Flint. A lot of people have a lot of gastrointestinal health issues that are directly related to being poisoned by our governor at the time, Rick Snyder, who was a Republican governor from 2010 to 2018. So In 2003, for Iowa, the city moved its water treatment plant out of the floodplain to ensure it could keep pumping in the event of a major flood. It's now gets water from under the river. So these are just, I'm just giving you some examples. Now keep this in mind. What took place in Iowa in the 2008 flood was considered a once in every 500 year event. So every 500 years, that was supposed to happen, right? Yet they had 2 of those within 15 years, from 1993 to 2008, causing the Iowa River to crest at about 31.5 feet and damaging or destroying 351 structures in the city. In the wake of the flooding, the city got $22 million in federal funds to consolidate 2 wastewater treatment facilities in a location protected from future high water. Another thing took place in southern Nevada, okay? So if you haven't heard about what's going on with Colorado and southern Nevada, and there's like 7 states that are using Lake Mead as a water source. In the past 2 decades, the water level in Lake Mead has been rapidly falling. The lake formed by the Hoover Dam after its completion in the 1930s is the largest reservoir by the volume in the U.S. and a primary source of drinking water for the city of Las Vegas. It's now down more than 170 feet, with a pronounced dark light color variation on the rock faces known locally as the Bath Ring, showing starkly where the water level used to be. This is very sad and dangerous. In fact, the change is so profound, it can be seen from outer space. In the early to late 1990s, early 2000s, seeing impacts to snow accumulation in the Colorado Rockies, which ultimately runs off into the Colorado River system and feeds Lake Mead, we were also seeing the climate models and hearing from the climatologists. Those models show that already hot and dry area of Nevada would get hotter and drier. Again, when we think about these droughts. Immediate and swift action to start reducing our water demands by implementing comprehensive water conservation programs and initiatives, including changes to codes that now ban grass in new developments. So there's areas where you can't even have grass because they don't want you watering grass, aka wasting water on that. If it's green and it's growing, at least in Las Vegas area, it's being irrigated. So they have water irrigation systems if you do see grass in that area. Oh, that is so crazy. Like, normally the region gets about 4 inches of rain a year. Only 4 inches. In 2020, it received less than half that. And this year, it's considered the second driest year in 128 years. So again, as you all were stating earlier, the drought. Climate change has placed an enormous strain on infrastructure, and despite being proactive to address the problem, it has been tough for officials in Nevada to stay ahead of the changes. So that's just something for you to see, right? I'm going to continue to highlight different situations. Then you think about what's going on in Baltimore. Okay, Baltimore, Maryland is also another major city with a predominantly black and brown, people of color, working poor, working class demographic who is experiencing water contamination. This seems to be an ongoing thing. E. coli has been detected in multiple locations in West Baltimore. Okay. City officials have been urging residents to boil tap water for at least 1 minute after E. coli was discovered in West Baltimore at one sample location on Friday and another 2 locations on Saturday. More than 1,500 people were affected by the advisory, as well as several area schools. Keep in mind, they still had schools open despite the fact that they had this going on. The school shouldn't have even been open because y'all obviously can't boil water for everybody that's trying to use the water at the school. Shouldn't even been open. Investigators are identifying construction sites that potentially contributed to the contamination. Baltimore Director of Department of Public Works, Jason Mitchell, told reporters during a press conference this past Monday, the health department is flushing the system as well as performing leak detection and live checks in the area. and increasing chlorination levels to try to clean and purify the water from the E. coli. Engineers are expecting the distribution system, treatment systems, pumping facilities, and other infrastructure, city officials told reporters during the news conference this past Tuesday. The boil water notice will remain in effect until the source of the E. coli is determined and the problem has been fixed, the Maryland Department of Environment said. So as of right now, you have the Baltimore City Department of Public Works is distributing jugs of water and cases of water to city residents, which again, those of us in Flint, this has been our life for 8.5 years. We have yet to, like I said, get our infrastructure completely fixed and repaired and replaced to quality. Okay, that right there, this is what's going on. Okay, so more than 1,700 gallons of water, through it being jugs and cases of water, were handed out on Monday alone, and distribution continued into Tuesday. It's really sad what's, again, happening. I also want to bring this up. In the East Village neighborhood of New York City, drinking water at the Jacob Riz houses, a New York City housing authority complex, was found to have dangerous levels of arsenic. And that's something to think about, is how all of these public housing authorities that are literally funded through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development are not up to code themselves. They're not even following their own guidelines and rules. You've got people drinking water that has dangerous levels of arsenic in it at a housing authority that's funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. It's insane, all the craziness that's going on. Links to all of this will be in the description box below once this video is edited. Let me try to catch up on what you all are saying. I'm a firm believer in the global shift that is happening right now. These problems going on in our country and around the world will only cause people to continue to rise up against the system. Y'all should reach out to LA. LA as like LA, Los Angeles, or Louisiana. LA. You know what I mean? Like, because, you know, all the plastic bottles are going to be dumped into the oceans and seas. Exactly. Like, and I live off of this, but we got to be honest. We got to use, I feel like we should go to those big 5-gallon jugs to try to reduce the amount of plastic. Because like you said, it's just going to go right back into the ocean, into the sea. You know, plastic, unfortunately, is not biodegradable. It doesn't break down. It just continues to be there. And when you look at a lot of these, landfills, it's nothing but plastic. You know, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Let's see here. I wonder where all the bottled water comes from. Okay, so in Michigan, this is something that's out cold. Since you asked that, let's talk about Michigan Nestle and how it is horrifying. So, you know, Michigan has been allowing the company Nestle to bottle water, right? So, which they're supposed to be working on making it stricter for Nestle to get water, but let's talk about it. So the Great Lakes Compact protects the Great Lakes from water withdrawal so that a state like Arizona couldn't come and hook a pipe up to Lake Michigan and start pumping. Because again, for Michigan, we are surrounded by 5 Great Lakes, and we are literally surrounded by the largest bodies of fresh water in the world. And it's one of our main water sources, and then also what brings money to the state of Michigan. And now there's always this argument of, well, we want to protect the Great Lakes. We don't want other states coming over here, stealing our water and contaminating the Great Lakes, which I agree, we don't. But then on the flip side, you can't have entire states without drinking water because humans need water to live. So it's like we're in this huge influx. Meanwhile, they have allowed places like Nestle, that's what I mean by the double standards. They've allowed places like Nestle to come and pump water from underground aquifers in the state of Michigan. And they don't even pay for it. They pay like a fee, and the fee is so minute that it's like asking you for $5. The equivalent of asking you for $5 to pump unlimited gallons of water from underground aquifers in Michigan for a multi-billion-dollar company, Nestle, to then turn around and repackage it and sell it to us when we're already, and keep in mind, all of us are paying taxes. A lot of us are paying taxes. We're paying for water bills. We're paying taxes for the sewer systems and the water infrastructure systems and the waste facilities and the water treatment facilities. And then we're turning around after paying all those taxes and then paying the water bill. We're still going out to the store and buying bottled water because we can't trust the water from our tap. So we're literally being price gouged from every, corner. I mean, whether that's through the taxes, through paying water bills, through buying water separately at the grocery store. It's ridiculous. So there's that whole situation. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. So let's talk about, this is from 2018. Nestle pays $200 per year to pump 1.1 million gallons of water each day. Like I said, the equivalent of you paying $5 to pump unlimited sources of water each day, basically. They were paying, this was from 2018, Osceola County, Michigan, who is exactly taking Michigan's water at a monumental discount right now in a small northern Michigan county. So this is like the UP up north, as they say, the Upper Peninsula. Nestle Water, a Swiss-based company. It's not even an American company at that, which is hilarious because you always have all of these conservative Trumpites who want to sit up and talk about America first. Meanwhile, you have Swiss-based companies, they're not even American companies, that are allowed to come to American states and pump 1.1 million gallons of water each day and only pay $200 a year. Meanwhile, you have people in the city of Flint paying $200 and up a month for water bills for water that's unsafe to drink and use. It's a slap in the face and it's ridiculous. Not to mention that the city of Flint, basically damn near half of the population is in poverty or below the poverty line. So you got about 40+% or more that are literally in poverty, but somehow they're supposed to pay $200 or more per month for water that they can't use. It's really ridiculous. And at the time of 2018, when this was wrote, many Michigan residents believe the state is getting ripped off. They believe our most valuable resource is being depleted for next to nothing. And mind you, this was under Governor Rick Snyder in Michigan. Okay, again, I'm just saying, and then the situation that's going on in Jackson, Mississippi, again, the state legislature is ran by Republicans. So, of course, they're not going to care about the health and well-being of human beings, especially black and brown people, working class and working poor people. They don't care about y'all, and they've made that obvious. And keep in mind, the out cold part is the federal government, through the infrastructure bill, they gave millions of dollars to every state to improve their infrastructure, which would include improving your water system. But the federal government gives the money off to the state government. So whoever is elected in running your state is the one that's allocating and determining where that federal money is going to go. And obviously, in a Republican-led state, can't really be too surprised that the money isn't being used for the correct purpose. And it's not to blame the people in Jackson, Mississippi, but it just goes to show you, unfortunately, elections have consequences. And it is what it is. You see who's running your state, and obviously they don't have your best interests at heart. They don't even want you to have access to clean drinking water. Despite the fact that they got millions of dollars from the federal government to invest into the infrastructure. But they decided that they're going to do other things with that. And it's sad. It is sad. You know, it is what's happening there. And I'm going to pull that up because I want y'all to see this. Because when you see how much money they got, it doesn't make sense that they didn't take the time to start working on getting their infrastructure together. So, again, Jackson's water system may need billions, right? Billions in repairs. Federal infrastructure and infrastructure funds aren't a quick fix. So, and again, same thing with Flint. We received money at the time when President Barack Obama was the president. We had received federal funding from his administration to assist us with the Flint water crisis. And guess what? We still don't have access to clean drinking water 8.5 years later. It's ridiculous. So, you know, it is what it is. So let's talk about it. So residents in Mississippi's capital, Jackson, Mississippi, who are currently without safe drinking water from the tap, and in some neighborhoods lack enough water pressure to even flush their toilets, had good reason to hope that last year's ambitious $1 trillion federal infrastructure deal would help. President Joe Biden shared the city's struggles when promoting the infrastructure bill in August of 2021, saying, "Never again can we allow what happened in Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi." First of all, we still haven't had our situation in Flint even fixed. It's just really ridiculous how people keep saying never again as if it was ever fixed. It never was fixed. In state where financial windfalls are rare, the federal package could be transformation for Jackson. Mississippi was set to receive $429 million from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to fix its water and wastewater systems over the next 5 years, mostly through loans, some of them forgivable, and grants provided through the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. But as the city remains under a state of emergency, it could face a lengthy wait for some of those funds at a battle for the city's share. One of two state agencies responsible for pushing out millions of dollars in federal infrastructure funds said it could be at least mid to late 2023. So we're talking about a year out. At best, you still got about 6 months to a year out before they're even going to be able to push the money that came from the federal infrastructure bill. Well, again, Mississippi received $429 million. And Jackson won't be the only one coming to the table. The money is meant to reach communities across the state. And it's already being expected that Jackson, Mississippi needs like $1 billion or more to fix their problem. So obviously $429 million is not going to be enough to solve that, not to mention that they have to break up that $429 million across the state of Mississippi. It can't just all go to Jackson, Mississippi. So you see how this is putting a lot of people in an issue. The mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, and I may be butchering this person's name, and I do apologize ahead of time for mispronouncing this person's name. Jackson, Mississippi's mayor, Chokwe Antar Lumumba, a Democrat, has said the price tag to overhaul the city's water infrastructure could balloon into the billions of dollars. That far exceeds the money allocated under the infrastructure law. We're already in a life or death crisis, said Danielle Holmes, a Jackson resident who is helping to distribute water in the city and works as a national social justice organizer with Repairers of the Breach, which mobilizes low-income voters and the Poor People's Campaign. Lives have been compromised daily due to the water crisis, and pushing this into another year to 2023 is simply not going to work for the citizens of Jackson. especially when we talk about humanity and preserving life. And the out cold part is, from Flint, we feel exactly where you're coming from, but I'm here to tell you, if we're still waiting 8.5 years, you're not going to see any real changes. I'm here to tell you guys that. Because again, the government doesn't care about us, the people. They've made that very obvious. Whether that's from your local to your city, to your state, to the federal, they seem to only care about corporations, rich and wealthy people. They don't care about us. And then the out cold part is they're all, oh, we're giving you $429 million. You're not giving us shit. That's our tax dollars. All of us are working our asses off and paying taxes. State taxes, federal taxes, local taxes, gas taxes, property taxes, income taxes. Shit, we getting taxed on everything. There's taxes on alcohol and liquor. There's taxes on everything. There's sales tax. There's taxes on everything. Most of us that work are losing between 20 to 25% of our income when we get paid is being lost to taxes and deductions. So when they try to make it seem like, oh, we're just giving out this money, that's our tax money. And ain't it something? Because they just gave $3 billion to Ukraine. It's funny how they can find money for every other foreign country. They can find money to fund wars. They can find money to give tax cutoffs to the wealthy and the rich and the corporations. But then when it comes to making sure that people have access to clean, suitable, safe, affordable drinking water, they ain't got money for that. And then they want the entire state to fight over $429 million. But yet, it was nothing for them to give $3 billion, a week ago to Ukraine? I'm just saying. They make it obvious who they care about and who they don't care about. All right? Now, they're at this moment, they're saying there's no deaths linked to the water outage as of right now. But health advocates have expressed concerns about the vulnerability of dialysis patients who need access to the clean water for treatment. Yes, if you have kidney issues and you are on dialysis and you're getting dialysis treatment, you need access to clean drinking water. Everybody needs access to it. In Flint, we had people dying from Legionnaire's disease because of the bacteria and contaminations that were in our water. And Legionnaire's is basically like having pneumonia on steroids. So it's just out of control. And then now you have like I said, so many of us in the area have all of these gastrointestinal issues. Damn near everybody, had to have their gallbladders removed. I wonder why. Just not to mention that lead can literally stay in your bones, literally be laying dormant in your bones. So no telling what health issues people are going to have later on down the road from the E. coli, from the lead, from the bacteria, from all of the different PFAS and contaminations that are in the water. They don't care about water or healthcare. Exactly. Sorry, Nicholas. I'm sorry that the connection keeps breaking up. Yup, elections have consequences and agendas. Say that again, Natalie. Elections have consequences and agendas. The and agenda piece needs to be added every time. Because we talk about the consequences, but we never talk about the agendas that a lot of these elected officials and political parties and affiliates push. And a lot of times the agendas are alternative motives that aren't even shown or told to any of us, and we just be out here going along with it, unaware of what is going to actually happen. It's ridiculous. And Nicholas, I hope it eventually comes through clearer for you. Notice how state elected officials rarely talk about the poor and what can be done for them. Reason it doesn't bring the state business. Exactly. They don't care about the poor. They don't care about poor people. They don't care about people of color. They don't care about women. They don't care about children. They don't care about trans people, LGBTQ people. They don't care about anybody. If you're not making them money They could give two shits about you and your well-being. And that is sad and unfortunate, but that's the real reality. You know, they put on this good old show of, oh, we're pro-life, we're pro-life, but we don't want you to have access to clean, suitable drinking water. We're pro-life, but we don't want you to have access to healthcare coverage. We're pro-life, but we want you to be homeless. We don't want you to have access to quality, affordable housing, quality, affordable food. We don't want any of that. We want you to, drink E. coli and lead and die. And just like now with COVID, with them taking away all of these mitigations, they don't want people wearing masks, but then they're at the same time, we're steadily basically losing 500 plus people per day to COVID in the USA. Not to mention that in the USA with monkeypox, about 1,000 people per day are contracting monkeypox. We still don't have enough monkeypox vaccines. And then you got the CDC telling people that after 5 days, if they're vaccinated, they can come out of quarantine. Meanwhile, you still are contagious and you still have COVID. There's people that are testing positive with COVID 14 days after contracting it. But yet, after 5 days, go back out and pollute everybody. Just wear a mask, even though we have states telling people that they don't have to wear a mask. It's just insane, right? Like they don't care about human life at all. I'm gonna try to catch up on what all of you're saying. Yes, it's a damn shame. These leaders want poverty, homelessness to be a crime in some states. It's never been about the people. Never. You're right. They're literally basically, they're, like you said, they're using homelessness to pack the jails and the prison systems because it's all about making money. In my opinion, and I've been saying this for years, in my opinion, capitalism is slavery with a C. Okay? Nobody's free in this capitalist structure. And then not to mention we got all these for-profit prisons. So they're incentivized to come up with ways for people to break the law so they can incarcerate you. Because they're making money off of having people in these prisons because they're for-profit prisons, for-profit jails. And it's a whole network. You got judges getting kickbacks for sending children to juvenile detention centers. It's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Facts. This is the system. Keep the people in check, even if it means to kill them by way of food, water, or other means. Exactly. The food that we eat. I mean, the GMO, the genetic modified products that we are eating that are being linked directly to cancer. All of these different cancers, all of these different health issues that people are having. Isn't it odd how damn near everybody in the USA has some type of gastrointestinal issue? Everybody has Crohn's, IBS. Everybody has ulcerative colitis. Nobody has gallbladders. Everyone has cancer. People are getting leukemia, breast cancer, colon cancer, rectal cancer, just pancreatic cancer. Everyone is getting cancer, and it's directly coming from the food that we're eating and the lifestyles that we're living. I'm just going to be honest. You can't have people working 40 plus hours a week every single day. All we're doing is eating processed food and going to McDonald's and, the liquor stores because a lot of us live in food deserts. We don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables a lot of times. A lot of people are homeless, so they don't have access to actually be able to cook and prepare a meal either. So the nutritional value is basically non-existent at this point as I'm sitting here drinking a beer. But you get my point. It's insane. Illinois, Natalie says, Illinois is almost 7%. It's like 6.75%, but I'm not in Chicago. It may be more there. Okay. Are you talking about the population of different racial and ethnicity groups, or the population of people who are impoverished. And then, Nicholas, what are we doing as humans? By the way, off topic, the world becoming homophobic worse again, and vaccinated people getting COVID. Yes, I'm one of those people. I caught COVID basically 2 weeks ago at work. Mind you, fully vaccinated, double boosted, wear a mask. The only good thing that I can say is because I'm fully vaccinated and double boosted, my symptoms were very mild. However, I felt like it agitated my Graves' disease because like I basically was throwing up for 3 days straight. Just projectile vomiting, couldn't keep anything down, basically was eating and drinking bone broth and chicken broth because that was basically all I could keep down. Anything solid was going to be puke city. And then diarrhea. I did have a slight cough. It was like a dry cough. I still kind of have it. There was some phlegm. I was very lethargic and tired. I'm just now getting out of that lethargic and tiredness. Today was like the first day where I didn't throw up. But I've been quarantining since last Monday. So, and I caught it at work, fully vaccinated, double boosted, wearing a mask. But again, if you go to work and other people aren't vaccinated, other people aren't wearing a mask, you can't really protect yourself. It is what it is. The only real way to protect yourself is if you have the option to work remotely. I mean, seriously, and then also, I recommend people, and I'm going to do another video on this, I recommend people get air purifiers for your job. Because let's face it, a lot of these jobs, they don't care about you and your health and well-being. I had to postpone my surgery and everything because I caught COVID. And again, they don't care. You know what I mean? So I ordered a air purifier for my house, for my bedrooms. I'm going to get 2 more for the other bedroom, and then 1 for the main area, and then I'm gonna buy another one to take with me to work if I have to go back into the office, because you need to be able to purify your air. Everybody is breathing the same air. It don't matter if I have on a mask and then the other 2 people that I'm working with don't have on a mask. That's how I got the damn virus in the first place. It's just insane to me. And then, like you said, then they're telling people, oh, if you're vaccinated, as long as you don't have any crazy symptoms by day 5, you can come out of quarantine. Just wear your mask. And I'm sitting here like, hello, I'm fully vaxxed and boosted and wore my mask and still caught COVID. I don't think that's good information that the CDC is giving people. Not to mention that the hospitals don't even follow the CDC's guidelines, because the hospital postponed my surgery and told me I had to wait 4 weeks out. And now the surgery that I was supposed to have last Wednesday, August 31st, currently has been postponed tentatively to November 4th. So again, they don't even follow that 5-day shit. They're telling you got to wait 4 weeks out. So I'm just like, come on now. It's just insane. It's insane. They are pro-life only if you're not colored, LGBTQ, or anything different. Natalie. Preach, preach, preach. They are pro-life as long as you are white, cisgendered, heterosexual, preferably a guy, a male, Christian Protestant, and you better have money. You better have money. You got to hit all of those very specific characteristics for them to be pro-life. Because if you don't, they could give 2 shits about you and your well-being. They don't care. They done made it clear. They don't care. They are fine with children living in poverty. They are fine with people not having health care. They are fine with people being homeless. They are fine with people, being victims of sexual assault, abuse, rape, incest, racism, homophobia, transphobia. They don't care. They pro-life, but they want to say they pro-life. Meanwhile, the federal minimum wage has been $7.25 an hour since July 24th, 2009. How are you pro-life and paying poverty pay? I'll wait. How are you pro-life and constantly funding wars? I'll wait. You know, ain't nothing pro-life about that. And then these are also the same people that claim to be so religious, so Christian. Yet, didn't Jesus help the poor? I don't see a lot of these Christians helping anybody but themselves to tax cuts for the rich and the wealthy and the corporations. It's crazy. Oh, it's okay, Nicholas. You're fine. I'm trying to read all of y'all comments. Nicholas, U.S. government is a gang. Yes, I agree. I believe that the U.S. government is a gang. And I always heard people say that the U.S. government, basically, we're not a country. We're a corporation. And I believe that. Because when you look at how a lot of these corporations, you know, the Amazons, the Googles, etc., these places don't pay taxes. They find every loophole for them not to pay taxes. You pay more taxes than billionaires. Not to mention, we had billionaires getting PP loans. Why does a billionaire need any type of assistance? You're a billionaire. Like, what's that shit? Just insane. Don't, Natalie, don't let them fool you either. I was a firm tech years ago, and most that were diseased and sick was the non-colored. That's deep. No, I was talking about the tax. Okay, the sales tax. So y'all pay 6.75% in sales tax. Colt telling off what you were speaking. Thank you for informing me about Chicago, Illinois sales tax. And honestly, everybody take Natalie's take Natalie's lead and look up what your sales tax is in your state. And I'm about to follow Natalie's heed and look up what Michigan sales tax is, because it's ridiculous. The amount of shit that we're taxed on, I mean, they find a way to pilfage our asses every damn day, don't they? They find a way. Ours is 6%. In Michigan, it's 6%. Information will be in the description box below about all of the water issues that's going on from Jackson, Mississippi to Flint, Michigan to West Baltimore. And then I also want to leave off and talk about what's going on in Pakistan because I want to also make sure that that I also provide a global analysis, because I don't want to be self-centered, narcissistic, and only be talking about what's going on in the USA, because again, the USA is not the only country in the world. And it's really important that we understand that we are in this this is a global crisis, okay? And I'm going to do a separate video on Pakistan, and then I'm also going to do a separate video on Jackson, Mississippi, to really highlight what's going on there. We in Flint, we are sending water, pallets of water down to Jackson, Mississippi through different organizations. And what I would recommend is, if you have the money, you have the resources, consider donating water, pallets, cases of water, jugs of water to people in Mississippi, in Jackson, Mississippi. Consider sending wet wipes and things that they can disinfect with down there. You know what I mean? Food, etc., whatever you can send. However, what I would recommend is team up with local grassroots activists that are in Jackson, Mississippi, because they will be able to better facilitate your donations than these big ass nonprofits who ain't about shit. I'm gonna just keep it real. Go to the local grassroots activists that are in Jackson, Mississippi, and you make your donation that way. Okay, but I want to talk about the 2022 monsoon in Pakistan before we leave off, because we are heading towards an hour. So This is off of Al Jazeera. All of this information will be in the description box below. But record floods. Now Pakistan has to worry about their economy. Okay, the rain has destroyed vast hectares of crops, including cotton, a key source of employment and forex for the nation. Ain't that something? Cotton. Almost 80% of the crops in Pakistan's I am probably butchering, mispronouncing this, and I apologize. And almost 80% of the crops in Pakistan's province was destroyed. Okay, so from Dadu City in Pakistan's southern province of Sindh, Kingrani and his family are among the 33 million people who have been forced to leave their houses, their homes, due to the unprecedented rains and floods that hit the nation last month in August. 33 million. A quarter. That is crazy. That's a quarter of that population had to leave their home. Can you imagine 33 million people here in the USA having to leave their home because of a flood, because of a drought, because they're LGBTQ plus? There's so many things happening. So think about that, okay? But it was not just the homelessness that was on Kin Granny's mind. Our crops are completely destroyed. We have nothing left for ourselves or for the market. We have suffered a loss of at least 1.8 million Pakistani rupees, which is $8,000. Or I'm assuming, yeah, $8,000. He tells Al Jazeera over the phone. On the 12 hectares, which are 30 acres of farmland that King Granny's father owns, he sows rice, cotton, and wheat during the winter, but the rains have not only destroyed his standing crops of rice and cotton, the Kin Grannies are now worried about their wheat crop as well. There's so much water that there is no chance of receding or draining before the next 3 months, and that means we will miss out on the time frame to sow the wheat crop. And understand that the wheat crop feeds that region and it funds their economy. So does the rice and the cotton, but also their economy, their region. But think about the global implications of this as well. Don't be surprised when clothes prices go up because cotton is not being able to be pulled from Pakistan. When rice goes up, okay? When wheat goes up. Food already has gone up sky high. So just start thinking about everything and then think about those people. 33 million people had to be evacuated, had to flee. Now think about the people who died. Now they're also, not after being flooded, now they have to worry about their economy, how they're going to make money. Are they going to be able to eat? On top of the fact that they're homeless. Climate change, global destruction. All of this happening as we continue to go through an ongoing pandemic. Pakistanians most impoverished. So these people are the most poor, destitute in the region. Saw 500% more precipitation than the annual average in the month of August. So people who were already at the worst when it came to finances, having a home, having a place to eat, things of that nature, stability, the people who already had it the worst also experienced climate change the worst, obviously. So this is a ripple down effect. And again, I don't get how you can say you're pro-life and then you're fine with people being homeless, number one, people being impoverished in the first place, But then, like I said, you're not really trying to help. And this is what gets me, right? Because y'all got 300, you had 3 billion for Ukraine, but where's that money for people in Pakistan? Where's that money for people in Jackson, Mississippi? Where's that money for people in Palestine literally being killed and murdered? Genocide has been going on, committed by Israel. Yet the USA, through our tax dollars, funds Israel. And ironically enough, Israel, they've got abortion. Abortion is legal there. But we're funding, right? We're funding Israel so they can have abortions. But then they're in the USA telling you that you can't. And then thank you for saying that. Don't forget Africa. This is very true. On the continent of Africa, what's going on in Yemen right now? That's been going on in Yemen. Again, nobody talks about what's going on in Yemen. Nobody talks about what's going on in Palestine. Nobody talks about what's going on in Pakistan. Nobody talks about what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi, Flint, Michigan, Benton Harbor, Michigan, West Baltimore, Maryland. The list goes on and on and on. What's going on in the global South? It's a lot going on. And people are suffering across the globe. You know, a lot of this is because of capitalism, white supremacy, greed, and it's just oppression across the board, and it's systemic. You know, and then to me, when you look at what's going on, for example, to bring it back to the USA, when you look at what's going on in USA, for example, these are, and I'm going to bring it back to the globe before I end this. But when you look at what's going on in the USA, it's typically poor people and people of color, black and brown, Hispanic, Latino, indigenous, people of color, and poor people, working poor, homeless, working class, working poor, lower income, impoverished people who face the most problems and who ultimately suffer the worst every time something happens. And that's the same thing that's going on in the continent of Africa, in the various countries in the continent of Africa. That's the very same thing that's going on in Pakistan. That's the very same thing that's going on in the global South. What's going on in Palestine? What's going on, you know, in Chile, in Brazil, in Nicaragua, what's going on in Sudan, in Kenya, okay, what's going on, you know, in Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, West Baltimore, Maryland, what's going on in New York City, what's going on in Chicago, what's going on, you know what I mean? These are happening. What's going on in Puerto Rico? And what's going on in the Caribbean, Caribbean islands, the countries there? So what's going on in Hawaii? These issues are globally impacting us. Climate change. And again, it's a greed. It's capitalism. It's corruption. You know, it's this over consumption. Every time you turn around, everything is so materialistic. We overconsume every damn thing. We use up everything. You know, everybody feel like they can't share nothing. Here it is, we're in a global pandemic and people still want to use this very narcissistic, self-centered individual approach to a global issue. Like, oh, well, I'm only going to, you know, case in point. In Africa, here it is, we got stockpiles of the monkeypox vaccine. People have died in countries in Africa from monkeypox because they don't have access to vaccines. And then we sitting up here doing blockades and not providing vaccines and health care to everybody, regardless of country or how much money a person makes or doesn't make. But then we wondering why we have all these viruses and diseases and why they keep mutating and we can't get control of it. Hello? You can't only care about certain groups of people and then say F everybody else and think that you're going to get out of a global issue. Doesn't work that way. Climate change is impacting the entire globe, the entire world. Poverty is impacting the entire globe, the entire world. And it's going to keep, and I hate to say this. I hate to say this, but it's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And people just still going to be sitting around. Well, you know, that's not going to happen over here. Oh, can't be us because, and well, I blah, 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 boo. And then it's going to be you. That's why I be making my videos about these jobs and people not being paid right and us deserving better pay and treatment and benefits. Hell, we need universal basic health care and we need universal basic income, not only in the USA, but globally. Nobody should be going without. Most people on this planet work their asses off day in and day out for centuries, families after families. Working and working and working. And what has it gotten us? What has it gotten us? Don't matter where you're at in the world, you got somebody busting their butt to make somebody else rich. And it's very few people at the top. The people at the top ain't the ones working. They not even paying taxes. Meanwhile, it's those of us that's down here at the bottom doing all of the work, paying all of the taxes, and we have the least. We don't have shit. And then we sitting up here, we begging and pleading for basics. While they're sitting up, you know, case in point, there was a report, and I don't want this to go too long, but there was a report about these wealthy, rich folks and celebrities who were overusing the water supplies in California. And it was just really, this was last month, and they listed a report of all of the water abusers. And again, they're all rich and wealthy and or celebrities, right? So I just want to talk about this. This information will be in the description box. But guess who's on there? It's Kim Kardashian, Kevin Hart, just to name a few, or a couple. So in Calabasas, California, again, I always hear that term. Like, it's a lot of rich and wealthy people that live there, a lot of famous folks, a lot of celebrities. And once again, California is one of those states that's in a drought with a heat wave. Not only do they got to worry about their water supply, but their electric grid is falling apart. So California is being told to conserve water because of the historic drought. But some of the wealthiest and most famous Southern Californians are among those who are using and abusing the most water. Once again, capitalism, greed, exploitation, very narcissistic, self-centered, don't give a damn. Yeah, these types. It's a mindset. It's a culture at this point that's been pushed on everybody, unfortunately. A list of 1,600 customers who are using too much water includes many well-known celebrities, among them Kim and Kourtney Kardashian, Kevin Hart, and Sylvester Stallone. The district says those on the list have been warned. Many of them, including most of the celebrities, have said they will cooperate and make efforts to reduce their water usage. I hope they do. I mean, shit, it isn't just you. Other people in that area have to also have water. You privileged assholes. So anyways, those who don't cooperate by further reducing water usage face the risk of having a flow restriction device installed that limits the amount of water going into their homes, from showers and toilets to lawn irrigation systems. Already, 50 customers have had the device installed for a period of 2 weeks. So out of that 1,600, 50 of them already received a warning and still said this to everybody: I'm going to continue to use up all the water. F you. So they have to put water devices to restrict the flow of water coming to 50 of these people's houses. A spokesman for the district notes it is a difficult to impose financial penalties alone on wealthy customers. Obviously, because they have so much money, you're going to be like, well, you know what? We're going to fine you $10,000. And they're going to look at that $10,000 the same way we would look at $100 or $500. And they're going to be like, who cares? So I get it. For some, the device is the only way to force change. There's really no other way to get past a clientele that has the means to pay for enormous water bills. That's sad. Again, people think because they have money, they can buy whatever, whoever, and do whatever, however. They don't care. And you know, people always say money is the root of all evil. And really, I think the love of money and the worship of money is the root to all evil, because money in of itself is not really the issue. It's how people's mentalities and attitudes and the culture, in my opinion, around the money is the root of all evil. Natalie, the lack of money is the root of all evil. I bet the rich won water freely. I do think the lack of money also is a problem. Because, you know, again, when people don't have access to money, they don't have access to resources, you have high rates of crime. And again, they want to do all of this. Ooh, we want to fight crime. We want to reduce crime. Yet y'all aren't funding programs to reduce crime. You're not funding programs to get people out of poverty. You're not funding programs to feed people, to house people. You're not funding mental health programs. You're not funding detox clinics and substance abuse therapies and making sure people have health care. You're not doing things that would really decrease crime. You're not paying living wages. You're not doing that. Instead, you're funding the police, who supposedly are supposed to be fighting crime, yet they never seem to actually be fighting crime. I mean, hey, I'm just saying. I mean, and then the out cold part about it is you got police officers who don't even make $35,000, $45,000 a year, risking their lives to potentially be murdered for poverty pay. You got teachers who also aren't even making 45, 50, 60, ain't making shit, risking their lives to teach the children to be potentially shot up in the school for poverty pay. Like I said, they want to stop crime, but they don't want to fund programs that would actually reduce crime. You know, maybe pay the teacher a living wage. Maybe make sure children aren't living in poverty. Make sure their families have the resources and support so they can be the best parents possible to the child. Maybe, you know, that. But no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep funding, you know, police that are coming in and killing everybody, that are not properly trained. And then many of them themselves are not properly paid. And then we see that we actually need more social workers and substance abuse counselors and therapists and teachers, and, you know, and keep in mind, you got to make sure that they're properly trained, because you got the same issues that you have with the police, you also have with social workers, because you've got the same racists that are police are also social workers. So, like, who are also nurses. They're in the healthcare system too. So these problems are, like I said, they're systemic, they're structural, and they're by design. I mean, they don't really want to solve this shit. In my opinion, they don't really want to solve any of this. They're fine with allowing people to suffer. They're fine with people dying. They're fine with people being hungry, with climate change, with diseases and viruses. They don't really seem to give a rat's patooey about anybody except themselves. And shit, even with themselves, you just had homie, the CEO of Bath and Body Works, I think, or let me see, CEO of Bed Bath and Beyond, Wait, was it? Yeah. So the CEO of Bed Bath and Beyond, or the CFO, my mistake, the CFO of Bed Bath and Beyond, Gustavo Arnal, died by suicide. So they don't even care about themselves like that because, and the out code is, hey, I'm not here to judge you. If you commit suicide or you think about it or you got suicidal ideations, I'm not here to judge you on that. But the reason why this person committed suicide is because of all of the mass layoffs that Bed Bath and Beyond has been doing. Because you know we're in a recession, right? So what's going on in Pakistan, their economy? Again, this is global. The USA has been in a recession. I mean, shit, you see the inflation. You see the interest rates going up. A lot of people are living check to check and living off credit cards, racking up more credit card debt. It's insane. But the CEO died Sunday and said that Arnell fell to his death. The New York City Medical Examiner's Office said Sunday night the executive died from multiple blunt trauma that he had taken his own life. Arnell left no note behind and did not say anything to his wife, who was home at the time. This is very... The entire Bed Bath & Beyond Inc. organization is profoundly saddened by this shocking loss. Shares of Bed Bath declined Tuesday as investors weighed the company's leadership crisis following Arnell's death and recently eliminated some executive positions, including Chief Operating Officer, and is operating under an interim CEO, Sue Grove. Arnell, who was only 52 years old, fell Friday afternoon from a building in downtown Manhattan, according to police. The iconic skyscraper known locally as the Jenga Tower or the Jenga Building has more than 50 floors of uniquely stacked apartments. So Arnell joined Bed Bath & Beyond in 2020 from London-based cosmetic company Avon just after the start of the coronavirus pandemic. He also spent 20 years at Procter & Gamble. In Bed Bath's statement on Sunday, the company noted that Arnell was instrumental in guiding the organization throughout the coronavirus pandemic. Since joining Bed Bath & Beyond, Arnell made several purchases and sales of company stock. Say this again. Since joining, once again, selfish. Everything's about money. Everything's about greed, capitalism. Arnell made several purchases and sales of the company's stock. Last month, he sold more. This is inside trading, which is illegal, but they do it anyways. He sold more than 55,000 shares at prices ranging from $20 per share to $29.95 per share for a total of $1.23 million last month, according to a file. Those sales were made as a part of a trading plan he had signed in April. The document also noted he still held 255,000 and 396,000 shares after those latest sales. So even with the 55,000, he still had over 250,000 of shares. Bed Bath stock is down 43% this year and about 90% from its all-time high. Again, why do you think he sold all them shares? They doing layoffs. Anytime we go in recessions, you got to really start paying attention to the stock market, because the stock market is the economy's health for the rich and the wealthy. And when the rich and the wealthy start selling off stock shares and shit, and that's because the pricing of the stocks have gone down, that's a good sign to know that there's going to be a lot of layoffs. People are going to be losing their jobs. People are going to be unemployed. And when the economy gets bad for the rich and the wealthy, first of all, it's already effed up for us. I mean, it was effed up before it was bad for them. So think about it. If it was already shit for us and now it's starting to be a problem for them, oh, it's about to be catastrophic for us because it's already been a shit show. Most of us have already been living check to check for years. This ain't nothing new. That's the out cold part. This ain't nothing new. This has just become the way of life, because the cost of living our wages haven't kept up with the cost of living and inflation since the late 60s, really. So, get this. Arnell died 2 days after the company announced to close. They're closing, right? They're probably going to file bankruptcy too. These corporations, they always file bankruptcy, and then somehow they'll come back a year or two later. They'll get bailouts, and the bailouts will be our tax dollars. But then they'll get mad about student loan forgiveness, but then they have no problem bailing out banks and corporations with our tax dollars. Anyways, they're closing 150 stores of its lower producing namesake stores, which means I can pretty much see like places like Flint are probably going to lose their stores because, you don't have much of a population. Everyone here is damn near living in poverty, at the poverty line, or just hovering over. So it's probably one of your lower producing stores. And that's, what's funny? It's not even in Flint. It's in Flint Township or Carmen Hills, whatever the hell they want to call themselves. Anyways, the New Jersey-based retailer also said it would be cutting 20% of its staff and added that it had secured more than $500 million in new financing, including a loan. They're getting a loan. They're laying off 20% of their staff. That's a lot of fucking people that are going to be losing their jobs. They're cutting their staff. They're closing 150 stores. You have Homie, who sold 55,000 shares at $1.23 million while still owning over a quarter million of shares. So why do you think this person committed suicide? Okay. Links to this will be in the description box below. Even though that had nothing to do with like the whole gist of what we're talking about with climate change and the water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi and West Baltimore to Flint, Michigan, through just various parts of the USA and to what's going on globally. Again, a lot of people across the globe do not have access to clean drinking water. People don't have running water. So it's a lot. Yes. Wow. And they're not, I actually think they mentioned they were not giving free school lunches. And that's another thing. In my opinion, as a taxpayer, we should be funding school lunches for everybody. And hell, I'm going to go even farther. I don't care. All children should have access to free food at school. And I'm going to go further. The people who work at the school should have access to the lunches as well. And then they should be open. They should be serving at least 2 meals a day, like breakfast and lunch. And quite frankly, snacks should be served there. Honestly, dinner could be served there. We need to have co-ops where the community members could go and get groceries. I, as a taxpayer, I don't mind my taxes going to things like that. That's going to fund the public good. I have a problem when my taxes are going to bailouts for companies that are laying off people and paying them poverty pay. I have a problem when my taxes are going to endless wars. That's when I have a problem. But healthcare, making sure people have housing, food, water, shelter, education, healthcare, things of that nature, I want my tax dollars to go to that personally. Make sure you all try to store some food away for this season. I go to Asian markets to get packed noodles and snacks for cheap. We have to be prepared for anything nowadays. Thank you, Natalie. Natalie, you are telling the truth. Again, take heed, follow Natalie's lead. Stock up, get your rice, beans, different soups. If you're good at canning is a good thing to start doing. Canned tomatoes, canned jam, get those non-perishable food items and stock up. Like I said, potatoes, northern beans, pinto beans. Shoot, there's all kinds of beans. My grandparents are baby boomers, so I always grew up, we always canned, we always had bean soup, cabbage soup, potatoes. We always saved the cooking grease. We always reused and repurposed a lot of things because they grew up in the 40s down south, and yeah, things were different back then. History unfortunately seems to repeat itself because people just seem to never really grasp the damn lesson and learn, so we can do better and be better. But you know how that is. I love you too, Natalie. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Information on all of this is in the description box. Thank you for sharing your information, your opinions, your perspectives, and advice and information. So solid state, it's extermination and genocide. Exactly. And that's exactly what it is. It's extermination and genocide. And it's been going on. It's all systemic. This is all made by design. There's no mistake that it's the black and brown, the people of color, the Native American, the indigenous, the poor people, the working class. It's our groups that's always suffering and being harmed. Our life expectancies are always lower than everybody else. Our quality of life is always lower than everybody else. We're always dying prematurely. It's genocide and it's extermination. Thank you. Speak on it. Okay, speak on it. That you're telling it like it is. Information will be in the description box once this is edited and posted. I will be doing additional videos to discuss more about Jackson, Mississippi. And again, if you can donate, I'm gonna also put links to where you can donate to local, on the ground, grassroots activists and organizations that already are on the ground, already been in Jackson, Mississippi. Go to them, ask them what they need, and donate to them. Because I'm sorry, but let's just be real. A lot of these big name nonprofits, they ain't doing shit. And then, like I said, they'll be dictating on how the money will be used in a grant when you could be giving that money directly to the people that's on the ground right now. So I'm going to try to give you at least a few different opportunities to donate and support the people that's already on the ground. Because I'm in Flint. We know how it was in Flint. Okay, you got, this going to this foundation and that foundation and that nonprofit, and then here we are 8.5 years later and ain't shit fixed. People dying and sick and people still suffering. So no, give it to the people on the grassroots. Give it to the people that's already in the community. Give it to the people that's already on the ground doing the work. Been doing the work. That's who you give it to. That's who you support. That's who you listen to. Because again, they already there. Half the time, the damn CEO ain't even from the community that they running. And you know I'm telling it like it is. So anyways, information will be in the description box below. Y'all be safe. Be careful. And like I said, if you can help others. But take care of yourself and be careful out here. Information will be in the description box below. And I'm out. Thank you all for joining me.